Hola, ¿qué tal? Aquí Julio Monroy desde Delta Records. Hoy tenemos una gran invitada. Todo nuestro live va a ser en inglés. Vamos a tener subtítulos. Así que, bueno, vamos. Hi, Lenise. How are you?
I'm well, Julio. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you again. I'm very
Yes.
happy that we are here finally. Thank you
Well,
for accepting the invitation.
thank you so much for having me. I'm really delighted to be here. It's a real honor. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. And we are with David Sicard. Hi, Sick. How are you?
Hi everyone, welcome to this new episode of Producing with Julio Monroy. Lenise, it's a huge honor to have you here. I'm pretty sure this is going to be an amazing episode. We have a lot of questions for you and for the people watching. Remember that you can actually send me questions through the comment section on the platform on which you are watching, and I will communicate them. So I leave you with the conversation.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Lenise. Well,
Thank you.
where are you right now, Lenise?
I am in Los Angeles, California, where I live. I'm in my home, which includes, you can see behind me, a lot of records and music and CDs, and also includes my in-home studio. And but I'm in a really wonderful area. I have Westlake Studios right across the street.
Wow.
And down the street is ABC Studios, and I'm not far from East West, and I'm not far from the Village Studios. It's a wonderful location to be a recording engineer producer.
Wow, that's great. That's wonderful location. That's right. And Lenise, we have only one mandatory question here in the live stream. That's the only mandatory. And can you tell us how did you begin in this music and audio industry, in this music and audio world?
Well, growing up in Los Angeles, we get to do something here that a lot of people don't get to do anywhere else in the world. And you, as a child, you get to work in the film industry if your mom and dad put you to work early. And so I started working in television and film as an extra, which means a background kid. When I was 8 years old, my brother and I were signed up with the Screen Children's Guild. And so we got to be the kids in the background or in any scenes that they wanted. They would hire kids. And so we got exposed to the industry very early on, and I fell in love with it. So I started out actually in film and television and studied that in college. I come from a musical family, and there I have some professional cousins named the Beach Boys. That the rest of us were just happy to sing in family get-togethers, and
Wow.
but I was also in orchestra when I was 8 years old to 11 years old with my brothers, and played flute. And so I got to learn how to read a score and how to play together, and all of I studied piano as well. So I learned music theory, and so music and technology have always sort of been in my life from a very early age. Now, I had no idea how records were made, but I had a boyfriend who was in a band, and his guitar player, Roger, got a job with a very prominent singer, songwriter, producer, uh, performer named Leon Russell, who was part of a bunch called the Wrecking Crew, which were the A team of studio musicians. But also he had a solo career that was quite prominent. And I was a huge fan of Leon Russell. So when Roger said, I got a job working as Leon Russell's engineer at his home studio, which was, very rare back in those days. Nobody had a home studio because the equipment was so big and expensive. And so I was very excited. He said, he got this job and he said, you should come over and see the studio. And I had never been in a recording studio, but I wasn't really interested in that. I just wanted to meet Leon Russell. And however, when I went over and came into the house and heard this amazing music, he had turned his house into a studio. And I heard all of these voices coming from where our dining room was supposed to be, and that was the control room. And there was a Stevens 40-track tape machine. Only 3 of them were ever made. He had one of those. And I saw the console and I heard the music and I saw the outboard gear and all of this, and it just was like an epiphany. I just knew this is what I was supposed to do. And so that's what I've been doing ever since. And that was really, I was in film school. And after going to Leon's home studio, I went home, and the next day I dropped out of university and found a recording school, and then went home and told my parents.
Wow, that's amazing. But I don't know, did I hear well? Did you say that your cousins were the Beach Boys?
Yes, I said that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
my mother was Betty June Wilson, and she and their dad were cousins. So we have like the same great grandfather or something. So I didn't know them growing up, but I did meet Dennis later, and also Carl. And then I've met Ryan a couple times, but just professionally. I actually worked, I assisted on a session of his once, but I didn't have the nerve to approach him and say that we were related. I didn't get to do that till later.
That's amazing.
Years later.
Oh, my cousins.
Yeah.
Hey,
but he was happy to hear that, though. He said, "Oh, wow, family. I have family. And I said, "Yeah, you know." Anyway, whoa. So that was pretty neat.
Wow, it's amazing. Well, Lenise, I have a question, because can you tell me, or can you tell us, how has the audio industry evolved since you first started?
Oh my goodness. Well, analog to digital, let's start there.
Yeah.
That's the big one. That's the biggest one.
That's the answer.
Yeah. And also, we used to make a lot of money making records. And so with streaming and people not buying music anymore, you know, it's not quite a hobby for me. I still make a living at it, fortunately, working on a variety of projects and applying my skills in lots of different areas. You know, post-production, archiving, workshops, teaching, consulting, recording, producing. So I'm fortunate that I have a lot of skills related to the recording industry. But back when I first started making hit records, you could make a lot of money.
And really? Wow.
Yeah, you made good money. So not only did you have fun recording, doing that thing you love, but you got paid for it too. A healthy amount.
Do you think that for the new people who are studying audio engineering and music and everything, the path is harder for them?
Yes.
Because of the streaming and all that
Absolutely.
stuff?
Absolutely. It's the way one must monetize their product or their content they're creating, their music that they're creating. I guess you build a fan base and social media and merchandise and playing live, and you know, those are all revenue streams, ways of making money. Hopefully your fans will pay for a download of your music instead of just stream it, because that helps. but I I don't know how people make a living doing it like that.
Yeah.
Where they can afford to do that only, and that makes me sad. I hope somehow the industry changes or the systems change to where musicians and songwriters and engineers and producers and everybody will get paid again what they're worth, instead of just the record companies or streaming companies. They take so much of the money and they don't give it back
Yeah.
like I wish they would.
Yeah, and the labels takes a lot of money, but also the streaming platforms, yes. So the artist receives very small.
Well, the labels invested in the streaming companies, so the labels as shareholders get paid first, so they'll always make money, and the streaming companies obviously take the money and
Yeah.
then they distribute it to their shareholders, and if there's anything left they trickle it down in their tiny little percentages to the creators, and it's a shame. I hope something happens to change that, because the record companies always made good money, but they knew that their money was made on the talent of
Hmm.
and the ability of their musicians to draw in money, and everybody made money.
Yes. For example, David Seeker, he has a project, and he has a lot of songs on streaming, right, Seek?
I actually do, but I actually think that there's something positive about this, and is that I think that more people actually have the freedom to create their own projects, and I mean,
Yes,
and I,
there is that.
yeah, and I think that's great because I'm not saying I to be honest with you, I'm not like that much into my project. It's like a hobby. I like to do it, and I like to record my songs. It's not what I plan to do for the rest of my life, but I do have the chance to record my own songs and publish my own songs, and that's actually thanks to aggregators and streaming services, and I don't have to share revenue. So
Yeah, well,
that's a good
see,
thing.
yes, that is one very good thing, is that when I started out, the only people who made it into studios and made records really were people were um, musicians and songwriters who were talented enough to um, convince the record companies to invest in them. And
Hmm.
so when you worked on a record as an engineer, or back then I was mostly an assistant till I became an engineer, the people who came into the studio that I worked at, the Village Studios, where I
Hmm.
assisted, everybody was really good. Some much, some great, but everybody had already proven that they were worth investing in, that they could book that studio time, and there were record budgets and all of that. The technology was such that it was exclusive to that situation, meaning not everybody could make a record. Now, technology is so inexpensive, relatively, and
Yes.
available, that anybody who wants to make a record can. And that's a wonderful thing. It's just it's like artwork. It is art. And so you can record your music and create your art, and you can promote it and work it if you want or not. And you will have created your album or your single, or whatever it is that you wanted to create musically and technically, you can now. And that you couldn't really do that on a professional level. The quality wasn't as good. We had little reel-to-reel tape machines, but that was more of a consumer sort of thing, and it wasn't very multi-track. So now anybody can make a record who wants to, maybe, and that's good and bad.
Good and bad.
More
Well,
competition. That's more
Yeah, his name.
competition.
Yeah, it's just like, oh no, nice record. Uh,
More freedom, less money.
yes, yes. I had, well, this was one thing I had to come to terms with the first time I started working with independent artists as a producer, as well as an engineer. So I was playing both parts. And the first couple times where, I would get paid a flat rate as an engineer, or, an hourly rate or whatever. So I was getting money that way. And then as far as being a producer, the arrangement was to get a percentage of the sales of their, CD. And
Mm-hmm.
and it turns out some of them, I say, well, so we've made this great record. Let's, are you going to go on tour? Or are you going to, do something with it? Or are you going to work it and put it on your website and all this? And say, oh, well, yeah, sort of. But I'm not going to go on tour. No, I'm not going to do that. I have cats at home, and I'm just glad I made a record. And it was like, as a producer, I went, what? So 20% of nothing is nothing. And
Yes.
so I had to just accept that, and thank God I got paid as the engineer. And but I had to, that was not a mentality that I was familiar with, that they were creating it for themselves or for whatever reason they were, but they weren't terribly interested in doing the whole rock star tour, whatever it takes to sell it and monetize it. So
Yeah. Well, times have changed.
yes, they
So
have. Yes,
yeah.
they have. So it's all okay. I'm just happy that I get to do what I get to do, because I see myself also as a recording artist too. It is art for me. It is the way it's the instrument I play, the palette I paint with, and it's my passion to record music. So I understand that mentality. I've got that. I do it sometimes for people, if it's the right situation, just for the love of it.
And Lenise,
Yes.
talking about that, you have worked on iconic projects. Is there any one that you consider the most challenging or significant in your career?
Explain that again, please. Sorry. Is there
You, you have
what?
you have worked in a lot of iconic projects, yeah,
Yeah.
with a lot of
Yes, I was
artists,
very,
yeah.
right place, right time.
Is
You
there
know,
any one that you consider the most challenging or the more significant in all your career, that you say, wow, that project was very complicated, or I love that project because it was challenging. I met a lot of people. What do you
oh,
think about
well,
that?
there were always challenges,
Hmm.
some more than others. So, um, uh, working with Steely Dan was challenging, in the sense that they were unique in their personalities and in the way they worked. And um, it took me a while to understand how their minds worked and how to communicate with them. I was very intimidated by them for a couple months. I worked on the first record I worked on with them was the Aja album. Um, and we worked on that for 10 and a half months. And uh, that was a long time and to do a record. And they'd actually been working on it before, and then kind of worked out, mixed it in New York. We only mixed one song in Los Angeles, but so it was even longer. It was about a year they took to make that record, working pretty constantly. And it's because they were such perfectionists, and So it was intense, and I learned so much and got to work with some of the finest people, finest musicians, and engineer Roger Nichols was my main mentor, and learned so much from him. And but it was challenging because it was pardon me, they were so particular about everything. And what Donald would say is, I don't need it perfect, I don't want it perfect, I want it right. And
Okay.
there's a difference.
And talking about your career, you were the first woman to receive,
Pardon me.
don't worry, a platinum album for the engineering work on Blondie's Autoamerican, right?
Pardon me. Yes, how about
Don't
that?
worry. Yeah.
I didn't, obviously you're not aware of it at the time you're making it, and it takes a while before that gets established. I didn't know that for quite some time, but it got pointed out to me, and I was very honored to find that out, and I'm very proud of that. And it's a wonderful record. It's one of my favorite records. That was also very challenging. It was pretty crazy times back then. And I was ill. I had cancer, and
Wow.
so I was determined to make it through that record before, I had to quit working, and so I did. And Debbie Harry was so supportive. She'd bring me, steamed vegetables and brown rice, and she's very healthy. And so I made it through. And then the day after we mastered the record, I drove down to Mexico where there was a cancer clinic, and
Oh.
my doctors, alternative medicine doctors I went with, and they said, quit your job or die.
Wow.
Yeah, because of the stress and the strain and everything. I was ready. I was ready to take a break. So I didn't work for 8 years. I took a long break.
8 years. Wow.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be in a position where I didn't have to work, and I actually lived a lot of the time in the Caribbean and did sailboat deliveries. I lived on a sailboat with my future ex here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so when I was ill, I'm grateful to him that he supported me during my illness, and I was still making some money, but
Yeah.
anyway, so I did that and got well, and then
Yeah.
came back, and he and I'd split up, so I had to get a job. And but that's all good. That's all good. It was time. And so I went into post-production audio, of which a lot of my colleagues had done while I
Oh,
was away,
wow.
because the music business wasn't making quite the money that it used to, and
Yes.
it was
Yes.
going through a lot of changes. So a lot of people, and as you grow up, and your life changes, you want something a little more stable
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Of course.
predictable. And
Mm-hmm.
if and post-production audio provided that, and
Okay.
it may not have been as crazy and creative and exciting as recording records, but it was a little healthier, um, and it paid pretty regularly, and you could make good money, and you had benefits and health insurance, which in
Yeah.
America is important, and we don't have national health here, so yeah, so I did that, and that was actually quite wonderful. I've learned a lot and worked on a lot of films and animated series and recorded. Do you know what Foley is?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, I always have to ask because some people go, no. But
Jack
yeah,
Foley.
organic sound effects. So I was pretty
Yeah.
much like, here I'm setting my cup down on a actually a speaker stand. Um, uh, yeah, that noise, all those noises and footsteps and cloth and that make it sound real. And I recorded a lot of Foley, and so that was great fun because I did it on a whole variety of films and TV series and cartoons and stuff.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, That's amazing and challenging, I think, because well, you know, when you see the movies or you're watching TV or series something, the Foley makes that the person believes that that's
Yeah, it
real.
comes alive. It comes alive
Yeah,
because in
yeah.
production, in production sound, what's the number one thing you're trying to get? And it's dialogue. And
Hmm.
so as long as they pick up dialogue, um, then all the other stuff you fill in. And if you have the budget, and
Yeah,
otherwise, you'll see people and it's like they're floating around because you don't hear any footsteps. So you have to put in footsteps. And
yeah.
yeah, um, so
It's like
that's,
magic.
yeah, it is the one thing that makes it sound real. So
Wow.
and I still do it on occasion, just when somebody wants something, you know. And it's
That's
fun. I
great.
love doing it. And I'm not the best Foley artist, but I know how to be a Foley artist, and I can be a Foley artist when, I can do my own effects if I need to. And
That's great.
yeah.
You don't have to download sounds yeah, you're that's
Well,
amazing.
it's fast. Everybody, you can go to a library of sound effects, that
Yeah.
pre-recorded sound effects, but it sounds much more authentic if somebody
Hmm.
actually performs it to that particular picture. And it's actually faster if you have a good Foley artist and you know what you're doing. You just boom, 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 and they just they know what to do. They know what props make the right noise, and it's an acquired skill as well as an art. Not everybody can do it. So it was as close to making records and working with musicians as I could get in post-production, was working with Foley artists. So
It's amazing.
because I like being with people, I don't like to sit in the room and make noise by myself.
That's amazing. And to record Foley, you actually have to be like really, really creative because sometimes like
Yeah,
you don't have the media to create a sound and you need to make that sound exactly
yeah.
like the real one. How do you manage these kind of situations? It makes me curious. For example, you need to make a sound, but you don't have like the elements, or you think you don't have the elements to create this sound. How do you approach creatively to creating Foley?
Well, Foley artists, and if you're fortunate enough to work with an experienced one, they have a kit that they've put together, and they have props and all of that. And if you're lucky, you get to work on a Foley
Ah,
stage,
wow.
which is full of props. And so, and in actuality, anything is a prop. I can just, you can make your phone sound like anything. You just make anything's a prop, and especially in a girl's purse. If we were looking for a sound or something, I must have something in my purse that'll make that sound. Um, but you learn what props make the sound that you're looking for, and you learn that there's certain noises that only a certain thing makes that, like handcuffs. Nothing sounds like handcuffs except handcuffs. And so you all the Foley artists have a set of handcuffs in their kit. And Zippo lighters. Not a lot of people use lighters anymore, but in the old movies, those metal cigarette lighters that
Yeah.
open up and close. Just get one of those. You don't look for something that makes that noise. Just get that.
David knows a lot of that cigarettes.
Yeah. So it takes a while to get good at being a Foley artist and a Foley director, knowing
Oh, okay.
what makes the sounds that people want to hear, and
Wow.
how to do it within budget, because sometimes the budget's this much and they want this much coverage. They want everything covered, but they only have this much money. And so I'll say, well, with your budget, I know you want $1 million house, but with what you've got, I can build you a great 2-bedroom condo.
That's a
But I
good
can't build
question.
you $1 million house for the budget of a 2-bedroom condo.
Yeah, of course.
So what do you want me to leave out? No roof, no windows,
No sound.
so you learn, what are the essentials. If you have this much money, I can give you this much coverage. I'll do the essential footsteps and or essential hits. But then you have the hard effects person, sound designer,
Uh-huh.
who can do a lot of the effects from a library. And so those are like the car crashes and the explosions and engines and all the things that you don't do on a Foley stage.
Lenise, and in which projects have you worked? In which movies? In which you said that animated in cartoons? In which cartoons? Can you tell us
I
more
did a
about
lot
it?
of. I don't know what you have in Colombia, or if you had when you were little. Or this was a while ago, but I had RoboCop,
Wow.
Street Sharks, Ghostbusters, um, Street Sharks, Sailor Moon was very popular in America. So I did all
Wow.
the Sailor Moons, and oh yeah, I did.
That's amazing.
Oh my
I
God.
can't believe it.
We did not know that. That's amazing. That's great.
Oh, there's
Wow.
a ton more. There's a
Oh my
ton more.
God.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
Well, I'm just trying to think of which ones I worked on. Oh, Spawn. Did you guys get Spawn there? That's kind of a
Spawn.
dark adult. Um,
Okay.
the dark underworld. I didn't enjoy working on that, making noises for that. It's pretty violent. There's one called Recess. There's Jumanji.
Wow. Jumanji, yeah. I remember when
Jumanji,
I
great.
went to the
Hercules,
to
or
the
what was it?
cinema with my mom.
Pumbaa and Timba and Pumbaa.
Timon and Pumbaa from
Yes, yeah, I did
Lion King.
that. Yeah, I did the Foley on that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
We actually have people on the comments cheering for Sailor Moon.
Oh, great! Yeah, I love Sailor Moon.
We have Sailor Moon fans here. Wow, that's
Well,
that's
Yay!
fantastic. That's
there's a lot of
fantastic.
people connected, right? Sig?
Yeah, I actually have some greetings. We have greetings from us to the world. Blanca Marquez. We also have greetings from Official Treb. Good afternoon. And we have greetings from Natalie Castro from Antelope Audio. She's here with us.
Antelope.
Lenise, hello.
Yay.
Such an honor to have you here in
haven't
this
been.
important live. And she has a question for you.
Oh, what's that?
She is asking, what changes have you seen in women's participation in sound engineer over the years?
Well, I have seen more women, and there are more women doing this than are recognized. And to me, that's a very important thing. I know they did all these statistics saying that only a small percentage of women are engineering and producing. And I personally believe there are a lot more women doing it than are recognized for doing it. And so I hope that's some sort of encouragement. I think from when I started, though, I was very fortunate because at the Village Studios, the owner of the studio wanted to have women working in the studio. He thought it would be a very positive thing for business because he felt women were more organized, and he felt that our egos wouldn't get in the way of the musicians, and as much as, you know, guys they're starting out as an assistant, but they're really musicians, or they're really something else, or I don't know. Anyway, for whatever reasons, he felt it would be a good marketing ploy. There were, out of the 6 assistant engineers at the Village Studios, 4 of them were women when I was there. And we all went on to be head engineers or head post-production, or all of us went into post-production eventually. I'm back making records myself, more than anything else, but I do post still. But yes, so I was fortunate because I did not know that women didn't do this, and I still don't know that. I think anybody who wants to engineer and do this can. It's genderless, and it's just whatever you feel like doing. I think so. I support that, and I think there is more support of that. People of color, gender issues, whatever. I don't think it's just so much a straight white guy business anymore, boys club, as they call it. However, that doesn't mean it's still imbalanced. It just means, I think, that there are more opportunities and more acceptance, and yet there's still more work to do. And I think the important thing is that for women to feel confident and comfortable in that environment. I was very fortunate because I have 3 brothers, and my dad was technical, and I did not have unfortunate relationships with men growing up. And so I wasn't aware I was very naive, yet I was very comfortable around guys. And so I think that was to my benefit. Now, as I get older and have learned what some women have had to go through, it's just heartbreaking that they had to. And so it explains sometimes not being comfortable in the situation. And I just think the important thing is to come into the session, come into whatever field of whatever career you want to go into, come in and present yourself as that, just being, you are an engineer. I always felt myself in the situation. I was an engineer. I was so driven that it didn't occur to me. I didn't play the girl card. I knew I couldn't ever play gender at all. You know, I just had to present myself as the position I was expected to be in, not a girl doing it, just an engineer doing it. And I don't know that that was kind of a shock in the beginning for people to see a woman in the studio as an engineer. And I expected that a bit, or I got used to it. And just all I had to do was be good at what I did and just be professional. And once they got over the shock of having a woman in there, or a woman being a part of the creative group, doing a good job, then things went well, and pretty quickly too. And that's always how I presented myself. And just being comfortable in the situation. I know that's difficult sometimes, but that's important because it's a team situation. It's a creative group where we all want to, the focus is the music, or the focus is the sound for the film, the focus is whatever, and we just need to get that together, make that happen the best possible way. And so that's what you're doing. You're not being anything but that. And if you want to succeed.
Thank you,
Does
Lenise.
that make sense?
Of course, that makes sense. I was wondering, well, what's the best advice that you have received in your career?
The best advice is to make sure this is something you really want to do. I was so driven and I was so passionate about it, and I still am. So I know I chose the right career path. In fact, when I got ill, or when there were some, weird things going on in the music business and all, and it was very disturbing to me and very upsetting to find out that people were creating music for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And taking advantage of people and all, and that was disheartening. However, I knew that there are a lot of people who were doing it for the right reasons, and for me to do it for the right reasons, that's how I have to do it. I have to work on the right projects with the right people for the right reasons, or go do something else. And I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry.
The best advice is to make sure you're happy doing this, because it's not like a normal job. It's never going to be. And you will make sacrifices for it. I never got married, and I have children, but my sister gave birth to them because I'm an egg donor to her. So I did get to be a mom, but I didn't raise my kids. She did, and her husband, and that worked out perfectly, but if I wanted to be a sound engineer back in the day, you just had to make that a priority, and that came with a lot of sacrifices. That has to be okay. I don't think it's that hard now, because we can record at home and we can do, it's so much easier now. But it doesn't make it completely easy. There's, it's still a challenge, because there's time restraints, especially if you're working on television or film. Mm-hmm. On television, you have a deadline. You have an air date that, the TV, it's going to be aired at a certain time. And so you have to get everything done by that time. And everything else has to kind of go in the back burner. And so I encourage finding balance in your life, making sure that your work and your personal life are in balance, so both of them thrive. I encourage you to save your money. Go ahead.
Sometimes that's pretty hard when you work
very hard
in this industry.
Yes, the unions for television and film were set up to do that, so people could have weekends off and people could have families, and that's all changed. But you can do this and still have a personal life, and that's important to do both. I had a major imbalance, and that's why I got so sick. And so I learned the hard way, take care of yourself and keep balance. I was working 20-hour days, 12-hour days, 20-hour days, 6-7 days a week. That's wrong.
Yeah, you have to live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that actually happens. That actually happens to a lot of us. Like we do get too much into work, and especially because we have passion about it. And there's something
Yes.
really important about what you are saying when you were talking about schedule, for example, for
Yes.
TV. I mean, like we do have a great time on our jobs, but we also have a lot of stress. And I wanted to add something there for the people, especially the young people watching us, is do not take anything personal. Most of the times, the things that happen are not due to you.
They're not about you.
They're not about you. And
And
there's a
don't make
lot
them
of
about
stress.
you.
So
Don't-
yeah, that's important for teamwork. Do not take anything personal.
Yeah. Just be a team player. Be somebody that people want to work with. Be an asset, not a liability. On a session. That's what I tell interns, people going into it, entering. You're not expected to know everything. You're just starting out. So please don't act like you know everything. You don't have to, and don't. It'll only what you need. The most important thing is for people to be able to trust you, and and if you're asked to do something and you don't know how to do it, say, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to find out. And always be learning. I know they say fake it till you make it. Sometimes you can do that. I know you're always supposed to say yes, and then you figure it out later. And I've done that many times. When I was working, one of my wonderful gigs was being a foreign dubbing supervisor for DreamWorks. So I got to work on the foreign versions of Shrek and Spirit and Shrek 2 and the way that happened, this is another thing I totally recommend. Be present. Go out there, and so people are aware of you, because I often say in my workshops and all that I know it's not what you know, and it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And you want them to know you for the right reasons. And so be present, be the one that people remember. I always go to parties. I had this experience where I was invited to the opening of a mastering studio, and a friend of mine was opening it, and I wasn't feeling well. I had a rollerblading accident with my son, and my leg was all messed up, and I just, I don't want to go to this party and whatever, but I better go support her and her new business. And I had been in post-production for a long time. So I go to this party and I hobble in and I see records on the wall, and I'm just going, oh, she's doing pretty well. And but her partner was turns out was very established and already successful. So I walk in and I start seeing people I hadn't seen since I've been making records. And this one person who was sitting there, who I knew from working with Disney cartoons, doing Foley, she goes, Lenise, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I used to be in the music business. And in post-production, you could never talk about being in the music business, because a lot of people who were in post got burned, or were unhappy with the music business, so they went into post-production. So you never talked about what you'd done in the music business. So she didn't know that I made a bunch of records and stuff. And so I said, yeah, I used to be in the music business. And she goes, can you read a score? And I said, yes, from when I was in an orchestra as a kid. And she said, can you be in Tel Aviv in 3 weeks? And I said, sure. How come? And she said she was working for DreamWorks, not Disney anymore, and they needed somebody to produce the foreign vocals, working with the musical director of the star talent for the music in this movie called The Road to El Dorado that Elton John had written all the music for. So I said, sure, I do that. And she goes, well, you might as well do the dialogue too. And I went, okay. I'd never done foreign dialogue before, but sure. How hard could it be? I thought, and fortunately, I eased into it pretty easily. But yeah, it's and then another person came up to me and said, "Hi, Lenise, haven't seen you for a while. I'm now president of this recording studio called Royal Tone, and I'd like to offer you some studio time in our studios so you can check it out." And I went, okay. And then this young band comes up about 5 minutes later, and they said, "Are you Lenise Bent?" And I said, "Yeah." And here I hadn't done any records or anything in years. And they said, "And you did Blondie, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, we have a band and we have some money and we'd love it if you do some demos with us." And I went, "Sure, I've got studio time."
Wow.
And I just got, yeah, let's do it. I've got some studio time. So we went in and had a blast in this great studio. And I got this job with DreamWorks that I did for 6 years. And all because I went to a party I almost didn't go to.
That's very important. For example, I met you like 1.5 years ago at AES, well, in New York, in the Jungle Studios. I guess that was the name. In the rooftop. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Jungle City that had the thing on top. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that going to events, it's very important. So there's we have like 4 weeks for the Pan American Audio Educators
Yes.
Conference.
Oh, I
Can you
can't
tell
wait.
us more about it?
Yes. Well, I'm so excited to have been invited to participate in the Pan American Audio Education Conference in Mexico City. And looking forward to that. We'll be talking about anything audio and what's coming up. And, I'm very interested in remote recording platforms and how those are developing now. And so many things to talk about with the students and other educators. And we'll also be going to Monterey to it's the Technical Institute in Monterey.
Tech de Monterrey, yeah, Tech de Monterrey. Yeah.
That is, I'm really excited about that. And just looking forward to the whole experience and working that together with Soundcheck Expo coming up as well. So getting to participate in both of those amazing conferences and conventions. I'm very excited.
It's going to be great. Yeah, we're very excited too with David. We're going to go with David, so we're going to meet again, Lenise. Yeah.
And so many, I'm so happy. So many of my colleagues here in Los Angeles are going. Rafa Sardina is going.
Yeah.
And Phil Scholes from SSL will be there. And Victor Vicaro, I can't remember his last name, but he's going down there. He ran an amazing studio here. And there's so many. I'm just so happy that every time I run into somebody, they say, "Oh, you come to Mexico City?" So am I. So
yeah, we're very excited. Exciting. Can you tell us more about the Pan American Audio Educators Conference, please?
Yes, I can. So the Pan American Audio Educators Conference is going to happen really soon from March 29 to the 31st at the World Trade Center in Mexico City. It's going to be run currently with Soundcheck Expo, so you can assist to both events. You're gonna meet a lot of educators, developers, thought leaders. And well, here you have a schedule. You have to arrive to Benito Juarez Airport. A huge shout out to the sponsors of the event as well. We are going to be talking about a lot of subjects, from education to artificial intelligence, technology development, and it's going to be a huge experience, the Pan American Audio Educators Conference.
It's going to be
Yay.
great. It's going to be great. I can't wait to be there and be
Same
again
here.
with all the audio engineers and all the people and good food. Mexico tacos.
Well, Los Angeles was Mexico. We used to be
Yeah,
Mexico.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so we're pretty lucky here, but it's nothing like Mexico. It,
Yeah,
so I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot.
yeah.
That's what I want to do. I always love to learn from the students. I love to learn what they're learning, um, and to find out what's happening in the future, what people think is going to happen next, and learn about that.
Yeah, I have a question for you about that. And how do you see the future of audio engineering in the digital age with artificial intelligence?
Well, uh, it's very hard to determine what's going to happen with AI, and
Yeah.
we can only presume what's going to happen based on what is happening now. And there are some wonderful uses of it that set us free to concentrate on the creativity and the human aspect of it. So if some basics can be taken care of that we don't have to spend time doing, and as engineers we can focus on what it is that we can personally bring to that project or that song. That's where the good part is.
Hmm.
As far as it taking over certain areas, yes, it is doing that. Underscores of music, um, a lot of people who made a living doing scoring for film, or the music cues for um, television shows or whatever, and they're getting replaced by AI. That's troubling, and I don't
Hmm.
know how you get around that, because they're not required to use a human for that anymore. That's just a basic, have a happy cue here, have a 30-second, you know, country song with, you know,
Yeah. Hmm.
banjos or something, and it can spit that out really fast and then it's done. Um, but when it comes down to songs like um, where the human element really has to be involved, it'll be a long time before AI can uh,
Yeah.
take that over. And I don't know if it ever will, because that requires, as somebody pointed out at a Recording Academy panel on this, AI has never had its heart broken. And so
Yeah.
yeah, you know,
That's true. That's true.
yeah, yet. Uh, we don't know if it's going to learn what that's like. I don't know if anybody can learn what that's like, but until it happens.
Until it
And
happens. Yeah.
yeah, and then so that's what that is. Uh, ouch.
Yeah.
um, but so there will be benefits, and there are benefits, and there will be some unfortunate aspects of it. Yet at this time, there are many things that only real humans can do using the technology that AI can't do yet or ever. We'll find out.
We'll find out. And yeah, for example, you have worked in a lot of songs and albums, including Supertramp and songs that we have heard. I can't imagine, for example, in 20 years, I can't, but I don't know what is going to happen. For example, in 20 years, oh, that song was created with AI and it was a hit. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think that's amazing that AI doesn't know how a broken heart feels.
Yeah,
Amazing.
well,
Yeah.
Music has changed so much. There's so much music that is so much like other music. It's formulaic. It's background music. So much is created. So everything is quantized. So there's not the emotional response that a song with dynamics and that creates emotion has. There's music that people only want in background. They don't want to sit and listen to that song. Yet there's so much other music where people are passionate about it, and that music has to be recorded by somebody. And even when I started, people were saying, oh, well, of course they're saying girls don't do this. And I went, how come? And I just said, oh yeah, well, this girl does. And and because I couldn't see any reason why I couldn't do it. And then and also there's not enough jobs. Well, I've been hearing that all my life, all my professional life, and I always felt somebody's doing this. Somebody has to do it. And even if AI is doing it, there's also people who are overriding the AI. You take the AI idea and then you make it your own. I don't know if that's probably considered cheating now, but I think eventually, sadly, that may be the norm. How people create music, but there's always the kind of music that people create that comes from the heart and soul, and it creates an emotional response in the listener, and that's why people need it and want it, and somebody will have to capture that to a digital hard drive somewhere. I used to say capture it to tape, but I still, you know what? I'm lucky. I get to record to tape every once in a while because I can, and I like it. And there are people who want to do that every once in a while, so I get to do that too.
I actually
do you think? Sorry, Sik, do you think that analog recording still holds an important place in today's
I'm sorry, you were
industry?
breaking up. What's that?
Do you think analog recording still holds an important place in today's industry?
I do. It's not as big as it used to be, but because a lot of people don't care. But for the people who do care, yes, it does. Because, digital recording, just in the nature of it, 50% of the information is missing. It's zeros and ones, and one has content and zeros don't. So, and it only goes to like 22K. And we listen with our whole bodies. We don't just listen with our ears. So all those frequencies and those harmonics, we're hearing. We're receivers. We receive that. And analog, captures more of that than digital recording does. And just in the nature of it. And a lot of people don't think of it that way, you know, because it's what are those zeros about? And what's in those zeros? You know, in the ones and zero. And it's data, but there's no data in the zeros. So it's only sampling, you know,
Yes.
just how fast you can sample, but there's still that many zeros. So
Yeah.
but does it matter? You know, that people say, well, you know, you don't hear that. And I said, well, but you feel it.
You
And
feel it
that's, yeah, you feel it. Like a live show is,
like a live show. Yeah.
you know, that's totally analog. And sample rate of 1 to 1. Well, that's what analog is too. You know, it's got its limitations as far as the medium that's, you know, vinyl can only have so much volume, but you can still have lots of dynamics. And yeah, you get no, you know, there's pros and cons to all of it, but I still definitely think it has a place, or else people wouldn't still be wanting to do it, or more people wanting to do it.
Yeah. I think that analog, it's amazing. Unfortunately, well, when I began to learn about audience, or I began in 2000, like 2002.
So there wasn't a lot of
it,
tape going on.
no, Joy is going to digital, but thank you. David had a question. David, can you tell us more about? Sorry, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Now you can.
Yes.
So I was actually going to tell you that we have this comment from Galen Brand. Hello, wonderful conversation, Lenise. I know you are now making some analog records, and as you feel, there are some sonic advantages to analog recordings. So yeah, we were talking about this, but do you see any other advantage from analog recording?
Well, yes, I do, as far as the creative process goes, because you're forced to commit to what you've recorded. You can't go, you know, 70 takes on a vocal, or you can't, you just don't go on forever. You only have 24 tracks, and or 16, depends on what it is. But for certain types of music, I think it really brings some energy and dynamics, and recording digitally with that same mindset often brings a similar energy to your recording. But with analog tape, it's, you know, it's totally destructive audio. But the sound quality, if you know how to use it, and I think it's worth it. It has its own sound. It's for me, it's a very fast way to work, because the type of music that I would record on an analog tape would be conducive to that. It's not something, you know, like you wouldn't necessarily do electronic music on it, or it's something more organic for me, whether it's classical music, or, you know, real musicians playing real instruments. And it would have we would rehearse in advance, so we'd have an idea of what we were doing, or we'd know what the songs were. It's a different, and bands play together. That's what I love, capturing that energy. Now, all these things you can do digitally too, but with the sample rate of 1 to 1 that you get with tape, I think brings a richness to it that you don't possibly get with digital recording. And your A to D converters can be really good, so that makes a difference too. But it just depends on what you want. But it is definitely a viable format. I think there's personally, I like the advantages of it. I love the process myself.
Thank you, Lenise. David is telling me that we have a lot of questions for you. I was wondering, do you have time for 2, 3 more questions?
Me? Sure.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course.
okay, yeah, okay. David, tell us about
Yeah, we have a lot of comments and a lot of questions. We have this comment from Lorenzo. Hi, Lenise. It's great to see you talking about your amazing career again. Even from so far away, still learning a lot from you. Love from Lorenzo.
Oh, Lorenzo. He's wonderful. He's in Manaus, Brazil.
Wow.
He's a student that came to Los Angeles this summer with his parents, and his mother's name is Lenise. And so, yes, so I got to show them around Hollywood, and Lorenzo's going to be, if he isn't already, an amazing engineer producer. He's just got it.
Wow.
And I'm very excited for him. And so wonderful to hear from you, Lorenzo. Did he ask me a specific question?
No, he just said hi.
Just said hi. Oh.
Yeah. Thank you, Lorenzo, for being here with us. We have this question from Official Trap. What do you think makes a great song? From the composition to technical aspects.
It's always about the song. That technology can only make a good song sound better, but a bad song recorded really well is still a bad song. And a terrible song or a really good song, no matter how it's recorded, will always be a really good song. And what makes a good song is something that touches people's hearts, and you get an emotional reaction from that people can relate to. If it's an instrumental, just the intention of the composer when they wrote that song, what were they feeling when they wrote that song? And that comes across, and that's very important. And then when it comes to lyrics, it's storytelling time, and you tell a story that people can relate to, and that's a good song too. There are a lot of different elements, but it's kind of magical, isn't it? For a song, I marvel at great songwriters or at people who are going through this trauma or doing whatever, and they go, this horrible thing happened in my life and whatever, so I wrote a song about it. And it's like, wow, that's how they manifested their feelings, is through music. And boy, you really feel it. And that's always something I tap into when I'm producing a vocal or working with an artist or whatever. Before we start singing or start actually recording it, I always want to hear what they were going through when they created that song. And I just never get over how fantastic that is, that people come out with their emotions are expressed so beautifully in their music. I've only had a tiny little bit of that experience happen for me, enough to appreciate when that happens. It's so that's what's really important. I always ask, what were you feeling, or what was going on, and wow, how did that make you feel, or whatever. Well, and we set the stage before we go in to actually record, so they're in that place again, and they can express themselves with that emotion. And my job is to inspire that and to capture it. And I'm in total awe of songwriters. good
Wow.
songwriters.
Thank you. Thank you. That actually takes
Thank
me
you.
to another question that we have on Instagram. How much honesty do you think a song should have when trying to create a hit?
How much honesty?
I'm guessing that
Oh,
means, yeah.
I um I think uh, I think anybody can tell when you're not being honest. And I think maybe what they're asking is how authentic or how literal do you have to be? Maybe that's what they're asking. Honesty and will result in a much more effective song, I think. If you're being absolutely honest about how you're feeling or what's going on and you express it musically, that's going to come across. You write about what you write about what you're feeling. And that makes the best music ever. Just and what you can do, it doesn't have to be exactly what happened, but it can inspire another story, or you can tell that story in a different way, yet it still has the same intention, or you still have that same energy. It inspired you to write a different story based on your honesty.
Thank you, Lenise.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you. Um, we do have another question, but I think this one is about folly.
Oh,
Volume?
How it's no. Which are your steps when recording foley? Do you have any advice for new sound engineers?
Well, Foley again is you have to have a rhythm, and also it's an acquired skill because you the more you do it, the more you know what props make what sound, what is necessary, what the process is. And my advice to somebody starting out is to contact a Foley artist or a Foley stage or whatever and offer to be an intern or an assistant, or to shadow that person, help them get their props. Or on YouTube there's a lot of videos on how people do Foley, and with remote recording, and with I use my phone if I like to, whenever I hear strange sounds or whatever, I immediately record them, at least 30 a minute, no matter where I am in the world, or get ambiances. Like I was at a train station in Kansas City, and it just it had a very special sound to the room. And so I recorded a lot of that, and that's important for sound design. But for Foley, I would try to learn from somebody who knows how, and how what, like when you're doing the footsteps, how to learn how to do the footsteps. There's techniques, and there's also channeling that character. If I want to, there was a TV show I worked on a long time ago, and I don't know if it came to Columbia or not, but it was called Golden Girls. And they had 4 women, older women, living together in a house. And each one of them had their own personality and size. And my Foley artist, she would become each one of those women when she walked them. They used to call Foley artists, they also call them Foley walkers, because sometimes all they do is the footsteps. That's what they used to do. But now, with the way sound is for television and film, people just cover it. If it moves, you cover it. You make a noise for it, whether it needs it or not. I would say try to apprentice with someone, try to learn from somebody how it works. It's a very small community.
Thank you, Lenise. Thank you.
Mhm.
That's a good advice. And well, Sik, it seems that we have more questions, but first, can you tell us more about this episode? It's going to be a podcast in a few weeks.
That's true. This episode is going to be uploaded to the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Well, it's really simple. You just go to the platform you prefer and you look for Produciendo con Julio Monroy. Then you will be able to find this episode and all the other episodes as well. So, well,
Thank you, David.
it's going to be a podcast. We have more greetings. This is very interesting, amazing talent from Diane Rivera.
Thank you, Diane.
Being aware of different sounds and always willing to learn from them. Very good advice. We also have Iron Ears on Instagram. He says hi. We have Lilia Espinosa
Iron
Voz.
Ears.
Iron Ears, yeah, he's always here with us. Thank you a lot, Iron, for being here. From
Who is
the
this?
he's an audio engineer as well, but he has always been with us on these live shows.
Oh, good. Well,
think
hi.
since-
Thank you for coming to my podcast. I'm honored.
Since the beginning.
Since the beginning, yeah. And we have
Yay.
another question from Natalie Castro. Lenise, any advice for young audio girls engineers?
Well, yes. Again, present yourself as an engineer, not as a girl engineer. You're an engineer. And be good at what you do. And make sure it's what you want to do. Fortunately, there's many ways to do it now. So I say learn Pro Tools really well and get fast at it. And be willing to do jobs that other people don't want to do, that need to be done, and make yourself useful in recording situation. And so people will know that you are a team player and you really want to do this and that you will be good at it. And stick to your guns and be respectful of yourself. Dress professionally, present yourself professionally, present yourself as an engineer. I had one girl in a podcast once, and she had really short cutoff jeans on and a t-shirt that was kind of sideways, and she was wondering why guys were treating her differently in doing live sound. And I said, well, you don't look like a live sound person. You look like somebody looking for a guy. And that's what it looked like to me. She didn't look like she was dressed to work as a live sound person. And so, present yourself as that position that you are expected to fulfill, and then be good at that, and just remain professional. And there are wonderful organizations like Sound Girls and We Are Moving the Needle, and She Is the Music, and She Q. I'm starting to think of some of the organizations that I support. The Audio Engineering Society, become a member of the Audio Engineering Society in your area. There are different sections for that, and that's really good. All of these are great communities that can support you and give you advice and inspire you by what they're all doing. So I totally encourage you to connect yourself with all of these, or at least some of these organizations, and get out there. And if you are looking for a gig, weekend outdoor festivals are really a good way to see somebody doing sound and just go up to them and say, hey, I'm studying to be a recording engineer. Would you mind if I shadowed you? And do you need me to get you a cup of coffee, or you need anything? Be useful and help them out. And that they may ask you back and pay you next time. Who knows? Those are just some of the things for starters.
Thank you.
Amazing,
Yeah,
thank you.
the AES is amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, I saw your shirt.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. I love it.
I do too. I have been a
Yeah.
member since I was in recording school. I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was. But it has been very wonderful for me. And I love my community. And now I'm honored that I got voted in as a governor of the Audio Engineering Society for here in
That's
the
great.
Western section. Yes, and it means a lot to me, and it's a great organization. And you have a global community. You can go anywhere in the world, and there's people in the Audio Engineering Society. It's
Yeah.
great, and so you have community throughout the entire world.
Yeah, we have the Colombia AES section. I'm part
Yes.
of the committee, and it's amazing. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. The events when you go with people and talk with people like you, and you realize that they are humans, and it's amazing. I have to thanks a lot to the
that we're
Audio
human.
Society.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, we're human.
Yeah, because when you check the credits and you say, wow, who record that? Yeah, so and you meet that people and say, hey, it was Lenise Bent, and now I'm talking with her, and I think that's thanks for the AES and for all the work that
Yes,
AES made.
we do wonderful things, and anybody can attend the meetings here in Los Angeles. And a lot of them are on Zoom. I think the next one's going to be on Zoom, but we have
Mhm.
a lot of events in person again now that we can go out and have been able to. And so I encourage anybody who wants to be a recording engineer and get into that. Check out the Audio Engineering Society, and if you're a student, you get a student rate. You
Yeah.
can join for a student rate, so that's a
That's
good
better.
thing too. Yeah.
Thank you, Lenise.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome. I'm trying to get
Lenise,
out of the sun. The sun's coming in. So
yeah, like,
I'm
whoa.
yeah, hold on. I'm gonna move this and move me a little
Don't worry.
closer so we can get out of the sun a bit there.
Well, Lenise, I want to thank you for this time. It has been wonderful to talk with you and all your experience and all your advices for us are like gold. Thank you for that, for taking
Well,
the time to be with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoy this so much, and I love giving back or giving advice or sharing. If I can help somebody cut to the chase and become an engineer faster than I did, or get through something sooner, I'm happy to do it. And thank you so much for what you do and that you have this wonderful podcast.
Thank you, Lenise. I think that with all the words that you said, you are changing and making I don't know, changing lives. I hope that the people who hear this podcast on or the people who are connected right now learn a lot from you. Thank you, and thank you, David, for all your work here.
Yes,
It's
thank you, David, so
my
much.
pleasure. My pleasure. It's a huge honor. And well, Denise, thank you. Thank you for all that you have given to the world, your talent, your strength, your example. You're an amazing human being, and having you here, it's a huge, huge honor. And like just in this little conversation, I was able to learn a lot, and listen to a lot of the things that you said. So it's a huge honor again to have you here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank everybody who joined us through. It means so much to me, whether we're friends or now I have new friends. And
Yeah.
please stay in touch. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lenise.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, all the people that were here, all the people that comment. Julio, thank you again for creating this amazing space and, well, bringing these amazing people here as well. So I leave you with Julio Monroy.
Thank you everyone for being here. It was amazing. Thank you, Lenise, for all your
Anytime
Thank
for you, Julio.
Thank you, Lenise. So, well, this episode has ended. Everything has an end, but tomorrow we will have another live stream. He's an audio engineer. He works in the Les Paul Studio, United Recording Studio. So he's Tom Camuso, and I hope to see you tomorrow in our live stream. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Lenise.